Hi all, Simon Pimenta here. I've made a short video about dealing with anxiety and panic attacks as I've seen a few posts on this topic. One person said that they experience panic attacks when they're around one person in particular because of the way the other person is behaving towards them and their attitude towards them. So anxiety and panic attacks are issues that I had to deal with, and I've worked with lots of clients who've wanted help with those issues. So let's look at why it's important to address these issues. The first reason is if we don't address these issues, they can get worse. And I'll talk about how that happens. One of the mistakes people make is if you imagine that example I've just given where, let's say, person B feels panic when they're around person A because of the behaviour of person A, then one of the mistakes that is often happening is that person B, if we think about this as being a filing cabinet, this person is actually making the views of person A important rather than not important. The next mistake people make is they think they can't change. This is a fixed mindset approach. My experience is that it is possible because I've made massive changes in this area and I've seen many clients do the same. So what do we need to do in order to break this pattern? So the first thing we need to understand is there is a recipe for generating anxiety and panic attacks. Obviously, with people with MECFS, sometimes anxiety may be triggered by the fact that you're very low in energy. But I also know that, for instance, I experienced anxiety and panic before I had MECFS, and certainly when I had MECFS, they were often being driven by what was going on in my head. And if we understand the recipe, if we understand there's certain steps that we have to take in order to experience that anxiety, then if we understand what those steps are, then we can change them. Okay, we can change the recipe. The second thing we need to understand is how neuroplasticity plays a part in this. The concept is that whatever we practice, we get good at. If I practice anxiety, I get really good at that. The good news is that we can change that, and sometimes we can make those changes really quickly. I used to, in the old days when we met people face to face, do free talks, and often people would come to the free talks and I'd ask the question, is there anyone here who finds it quite challenging speaking in public? And every time I did a free talk, someone would put their hand up. And just by asking them a few questions, within a few minutes, they actually changed dramatically how they felt about being in a public situation and talking, asking questions, because of they understood what was going on in their head. They understood the recipe for how they were generating those feelings of lack of confidence. Sometimes it takes work to make these changes, but if we shift from the fixed mindset of I can't to the growth mindset, I can and I'm working towards and I can learn, then we are on our way. So the next thing we need to understand is the principle of association. So you may have heard of Pavlov. He was a psychologist. He did an experiment where every time he fed his dogs, he rang the bell. And after a few times of doing this, he'd ring the bell and the dogs would salivate because they'd associated the sound of the bell with being fed. Now, we've all experienced that stimulus response in different contexts. So, for example, for many people, if you hear a particular piece of music, it takes you back to a particular time in your life. For some people, being stuck in traffic means that their default response is to generate frustration. I remember a while back, I bought a salad from Pret a Manger or somewhere like that. And I started thinking about the time when I was working on a summer camp. And I thought, why am I thinking about this? And I realised that the salad dressing was the same taste as the salad dressing that they had on this summer camp in America. And we can also have an association to people. So some people, when we see them or think about them, we feel good. You know, if you fall in love, every time you think about your loved one, you have those good feelings. But sadly, we can also think of some people and our heart sinks and we feel a certain amount of stress. Now, good news is we can change that. So if we think about the stimulus and response, sometimes it feels like there's not a gap between the stimulus and response. But in fact, there is, and with practice, we can extend that gap. So we can use our neurology to change the way we respond to a stimulus. So the fourth thing we need to understand is there is a power dynamic going on in that interaction that we talked about, where someone is reacting to another person. And it's as if you like, as I alluded to earlier, that we're placing more importance on that person and what they think than on what we think. And so we need to address that power imbalance. And how do we do that? We do that by reframing the situation. So when I had MECFS, there was someone in my life who was close to me, who I had a difficult relationship with. And I now understand it, that they did care, but they were kind of projecting their anxiety onto me a lot, saying you're doing it all wrong, you should be doing this, taking this drug or whatever. I remember a friend saying to me, how's things with that person? And my energy just dropped. And my friend said, what's happened? Your energy's just gone through the floor. And that made me realise how powerful our minds are, because literally in a nanosecond, my energy dropped. And what I realised is I was placing a lot of importance on their viewpoint. I was kind of saying to myself, what they say really matters. And actually, by understanding the dynamics of the interaction, I was able to shift that to actually, you know what, their opinion isn't that important, and actually my opinion is more important. And by making those shifts, when I addressed kind of what was going on with that person and what I was doing here, they stopped being a source of stress. So if you'd like to know how I work with people and the 9 steps I focus on, then comment below this video and I will send you a link to a video where I talk about the 9 steps I focus on. You'll be able to do an audit so you get some insights into what areas might be useful for you to focus on. So pop the word steps below this video and I will PM you the link to that short video. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link below, put steps in the message box and I will send you the link. Thanks for watching, wishing you great health. Bye for now.